In the reselling community, we talked about things like click-through rates. We talk about items not selling. We talk about inventory management system. We talk about where to get inventories, some tips and tricks to make sure that your eBay items sell, even when eBay is saying to you, this item, we're not going to sell it because this item, the customers don't want it. We talked about so many other things in this direction, but then there's an issue that affects all of us, which especially became an eye-opener to me today after my near accident situation, which I had today at the warehouse. All right? If you sell soft goods like clothing, teddy bears, toothbrush, or even if you sell hard goods like myself, you sell electronics, you sell heavy items that could be as heavy as 25 kilograms, 15 kilograms. It doesn't matter. Safety, as regards to personal safety, is something that you should give attention to. It's something that should be on your priority list, especially when you work in a warehouse that is quite a distance from where you live. And more often than not, you are alone in this warehouse. In my warehouse, sometimes I'm alone here 3, 4, 5 hours just alone. Nobody is with me here. But sometimes I have people around. But if you work alone, this is something that should also be something that you should pay particular attention to. You see, today we're trying to set up a PC for a buyer. Funny enough, this is something I've always done for years. This is something I've always easily opened. But from nowhere, the PC just decided to be difficult. Didn't want to open up. So necessitated me actually forcing the chassis of the PC to just make sure it opens up for me so I could do what I wanted to do. But in doing it, I suddenly had a cut. You see, it just snapped from nowhere and it hit my hand at a force that was just enough to cut through my finger. Luckily for me, it wasn't life-threatening. It wasn't particularly very bad. But then as soon as I saw that, look, this has happened, I tried to kind of stop the bleeding, only for me to realize that, look, I do not have in this warehouse a first aid box. You see, it has never occurred to me, even though I kind of understand that, look, if you work in a place where danger or where an accident is imminent, always have a first aid box by the side. You know, this is something that we've always been taught, something we've always known. But for one reason or the other, it just escaped me. You see, accident can happen anywhere. Accident can happen in the kitchen, it can happen in the bedroom. And if you sell items on eBay, you move goods around, you have to lift items, accident can equally happen there. And we are not talking about this enough. This is something like I felt like it's a good thing to actually go ahead to remind us. Yes, it's okay to talk about items not selling, but it's also okay to talk about the fact that if you sell on eBay, you sell on Whatnot, sell on Amazon, it doesn't matter where you sell, but I'm an eBay person, so you might be hearing me talk only about eBay more often than not. But understand that it doesn't matter where you sell on, accident is something that can happen. And you need to begin to take measures as a reseller to see how you can limit this accident, all right? And in the event that you have an accident while doing your daily task, perhaps while shipping items, while moving items for the shelf, some of us have very high shelves and you have items up there. Some of us have to actually climb ladders to bring up the items in our shelving unit. How prepared are you if an item suddenly falls down and hits your foot and it starts bleeding? You know, this was exactly what happened to me today. I just realized that in this whole warehouse, I do not have anything to stop a bleeding when it becomes necessary. So what I needed to do, I started looking for my label printer. I got these white papers for printing my labels, and I tried to use it to stop bleeding. You know, I just didn't have anything. You know, normally I should have a plaster here or a bandage or an antiseptic that I could actually put on it just to be sure that the bleeding stops. But then after it happened, I saw that, look, this is something I actually need to pay a very great attention to. You see, some of us even have workers, and if you look at our working space, we do not have a first aid box that would come in very handy in the event that somebody starts to bleed or somebody hits his foot against some solid item on the ground. You know, we do not have anything prepared to salvage situations like this. And if you sell electronics items like myself, I can almost imagine that you'll be working with a lot of screwdrivers, some knives, some sharp objects. These things can easily pierce through our hands. Ideally, when you do these kind of jobs that we do, which is you have to do a lot of packing, a lot of boxing, a lot of sellotaping, screwing, lifting heavy items, the ideal thing for us to do is to actually wear hand gloves. But because sometimes we are just lazy, we just want to quickly get things done, we disregard the normal safety regulations, which is if you are in a place where you have to lift items, the normal thing for you to do is to wear a hand glove. And if you want to take it a step further, you actually should be seen wearing a safety boot. Safety boots may not really apply to all of us because I'm aware some of us sell some really light objects. If you sell postcards, clothing, except you receive your items in very boxes, this might not really apply to you. But if you sell on eBay and you sell dishwashers, you sell washing machines, these heavy items like computers, servers, these are items that will pretty be heavy, and in the event that one of them is to fall down and hit your foot, it might really be a game changer for you. So a safety boot would definitely be something that will be needed in such an environment. But for me, I sell computers, and honestly, I've never had an accident or a cut for a very, very long time. So perhaps this was the reason why I never really considered that this was very, very necessary. But after today, I saw that, look, no environment is immune from accidents. You could be moving your cables, you could be moving the knife you use in cutting your boxes. Even the sellotape dispenser that we use so freely, so easily, has a sharp cutter just in front of it. It could suddenly snap and just hit your skin and it breaks it, The screwdrivers that we use in opening these computers are all sharp objects. But even removing the fact that this screwdriver is sharp, the knife is sharp, the item itself that we're actually handling, which is the computer in this case, could suddenly trip and fall down and hit our foot, So all this made me actually begin to think again and say, look, safety is also a very fundamental part of this job that we do, which is reselling. And it's not only about selling and making a lot of profit. The idea is we have to sell and make profit, but we do not have to put ourselves in harm's way while doing this. So when this happened, luckily for me, I was able to salvage the situation. I was finally able to stop the bleeding. Kind of shameful, but I had to use sellotape to actually tape my hand, because while I was trying to still walk, I still saw that it was trying to bleed, but the only thing I had was just a sellotape, which I finally did use to wrap my hand to enable me finish the job I had to do, because the post office was closing very soon at about 5 o'clock. I needed to get things out. I didn't want to go home now and say, look, customers, I'm so sorry, I couldn't send out your items because I had a cut where I was trying to pack things. It is what it is, but I did such a situation. But one thing I did do was I then immediately went ahead to make a very comprehensive list of the things that I'm going to buy tomorrow. I'm going to be ordering them, and they will definitely be here. I'm going to dedicate a special corner in this warehouse where this first aid kit is going to be placed, and it's going to be marked as the first aid section, so that in the event of me hurting myself while trying to pack items, definitely in this box is going to be everything. It's going to be bandages, it's going to be plasters, it's going to be disinfectants. But if issues like this, small cuts that naturally shouldn't be a problem, if they come up, then I will be able to react adequately and then salvage the situation. And also do not waste a lot of time, because me trying to improvise, like taking paper, taking sellotape, just ended up wasting my time, because at the end of the day, it wasn't doing the work I was supposed to do. If I had a plaster, I would have suddenly put the plaster just like that on the cut, and everything would have been nice and easy. I would have been able to continue almost immediately, but I ended up wasting like 15 minutes just trying to stop the bleeding first. And then when the bleeding did stop, because there was no plaster, it just kept trying to bleed again. But then, luckily for me, like I said, I was able to salvage the situation. So this is a charge to you out there. You sell heavy items, you sell on eBay, you pay a lot of attention to every other metrics that matters on eBay. Please, please, and please, today, going forward, ask yourself, in the event of an accident, how prepared are you to salvage the situation? Do you have a first aid box already waiting? Do you have the items that needs to be there already waiting? Are the items that needs to be there in the first aid box, are they still valid? Because sometimes I know that some of us have gotten this like 1 or 2 years ago. Some of these first aid boxes actually do have an expiration. Go ahead, check it, make sure that everything is ready, because sometimes it might not only be about you. Somebody could be visiting you, your wife could be visiting, your friends could be visiting, your neighbor could be visiting, and from nowhere, there's an accident, and then you suddenly realize that you are not prepared. Please, let this video be an eye-opener to you. Understand that accidents can happen anywhere. It doesn't matter how careful you are. Things can suddenly go wrong, and if you are already very prepared for situations like this, then you won't have to suffer any form of inconvenience. You're just going to reach out to the section or the box that you have invested time and effort in putting together, and you are able to save the situation and then move on. I hope this video finds you well. If it does, you know what we do on this channel. We like and subscribe. Until I see you again, peace.